Bleach, Sealed Sword Frenzy. I didn't know this existed until one of my patrons suggested I watch it. So I did. What did I think of it? Well, I have very little experience watching OVAs in general. I'm pretty sure I've only seen these, but they're usually pretty quick and to the point with their limited run times, and this one was no different. We've got about 30 minutes to tell a whole new Bleach adventure, not 45 episodes like the Bount arc, or not even the movies, which are like over twice as long as this OVA. So I wasn't sure what to expect going into it. What could we do in such a short amount of time? Well, not much really, but you know what? I had fun. How could I not? We'll get there. But yeah, the plot of this OVA is essentially a bad guy was locked away long ago and has now been unshackled and loosed upon us all. So this is pretty much Dragon Ball Z BoJack Unbound, minus yet another tournament Yamcha lost in round 1, and this guy isn't a space pirate. It is paper thin as far as its story, but it kind of has to be at this length. Honestly, I'm impressed with what they were able to do. There's not much time for lore, but they give us just enough to set up a conflict that's believable and that feels like a problem we should be dealing with in this series. So this guy Baishin was a Soul Reaper captain a long time ago and suddenly out of the blue killed like 60 people, so they locked him away, sealing him in a mountain. It took a bunch of other captains to put him away, and now he's out, so naturally our heroes have to stop him. It must have been desperation to seal him away inside of a mountain in the living world, because I would imagine someone like this, wouldn't you want to put him in like the Muken, you know? Wouldn't you want to lock him away from people instead of in the middle of a world where he's stronger than the entire population and could probably wipe out all of humanity if Soul Reapers didn't come try to slow him down? I don't know. Maybe just me. Put him in the Muken, not a mountain. It must have been desperate times. The idea of a crazed Soul Reaper captain was inherently a little scary and made me think, with knowing what I know now, of the original 13 and how Unohana used to be. I don't think this was remotely intentional considering how long before the Thousand Year Blood War this was made, but if you look at Bleach as a whole, of the whole story, there is a precedent in the history of this world of extremely violent, volatile captains. So I can roll with that. The opening of this with the temple's defenses failing was a great way to immediately introduce the threat, putting the living world at risk right away. I don't know why they thought this was a secure location. Again, I would have put him in some sort of prison. It is what it is. The way Ichigo gets roped into this is pretty wild. I didn't think one of the funniest, weirdest parts of the series would be in a random OVA that I didn't know existed, but I'm sorry, Renji showing up to Ichigo's house as a cop with a shotgun shooting Ishin's hair off was so unexpected and random, but what got me even more was that once the action gets going later, Renji still got his shotgun and is using it as his primary weapon in a fight. I don't know who thought of this or why, but it's amazing. I kept waiting for Renji to, I don't know, leave his Gigai, but for a while he seemed adamant about just making the most of his time with this firearm. He doesn't try to be a Soul Reaper and wield Zabimaru. He is like, no, this is better than Zabimaru. This is my boomstick, and he's just trying to fight with that, as if it will work. It's so weird and strange, but kind of wonderful and amazing. Renji should have used this against future enemies. Jackie kicking you? Shotgun. Mask throwing you around? Shotgun. Uryu attacking you in that Thousand Year Blood War fight? Shotgun. He seemed inseparable from it. Were the bullets some sort of special Soul Society bullets? I kind of doubt it, but that would have been cool. He's just clinging onto this shotgun. He literally brings it to go out to eat at a burger joint. I didn't realize Renji had such an affinity for things like this, but I guess he does. And as far as this burger joint, Hanataro worked there. Speaking of odd things that the anime does, continuously giving Hanataro jobs in the living world is a really random gag that never leads anywhere. The Bount arc did the same thing with that whole thing at the convenience store, which, you know, they're just trying to fill time, but what a weird decision. And then this one in particular, completely unnecessary, but they're like, yeah, Hanataro works here. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess so. I don't know. They keep doing it. On a more serious note, let's talk more about our primary antagonist, Baishin, and let's get into his design. He is this broad-shouldered beast of a man that honestly stands out among the many Bleach villains for me. Not personality-wise, he's pretty basic and doesn't really have much of one, but as far as his appearance, he sticks out. It helps that this guy is just covered in blades, straight up looks like the Shredder sometimes, and when he transforms, his whole body literally becomes like blades, and it's actually more than decorative and more of like a design flair. They're a hint towards his actual true nature. I immediately caught his line about being a blade, but my brain took it in like a slightly different direction than it ended up being. I was thinking, oh, maybe he's some kind of Zanpakuto spirit, but nope, he's a Soul Reaper that merged with his Zanpakuto like Ichigo did that time. I didn't even notice that he didn't have a sword. I think I was distracted by his armor. An embarrassing part of this, though, is I watched this not long after I reacted to the Beyond Bankai designs for Brave Souls, and the whole concept of those had to do with like blades merging with them, so it should have been on my mind, and admittedly it wasn't. I did not expect him to literally be merged with his Zanpakuto. That was pretty cool. I like that a lot. It's really interesting, and I had to check when this came out compared to the chapter where Ichigo merged with his Zanpakuto, and this was way before that, so I guess this is where the concept was originally brought up, not canon-wise, of course, but just like in general Bleach. I don't know that Kubo remotely considered this OVA when that happened. I just think it's an interesting thing to happen when it did, and so early. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess. But yeah, it's because he merged with his Zanpakuto that he seems to have gone kind of crazy, and that's why he killed like 60 people. There was the whole thing. But having been not only a captain, but also merging with his Zanpakuto, he is presented as a pretty credible threat to our heroes. We see Baishin throttle Ichigo and even drain his power just by touching him, which was kind of cool. His craziest feat, though, may be that he can withstand the power of Renji's shotgun. Impossible. Although I suppose Baishin's motive to create enough power to separate himself from his sword could actually be really compelling had it had more time to really be explored. There's a lot you could get into when you're literally turned into a weapon, where your instinct is to cause violence and destruction and to discard whatever humanity you had. We don't know what he was like as a Soul Reaper beforehand, but presumably he wasn't the monster he became that slaughtered so many people and turned on his comrades. So to have him willing to give up anything to stop being this monster is kind of this tragic story. We just don't really get much of that. There's definitely something more there for sure, but a half-hour OVA isn't really the best time to be able to delve into some of that. So unfortunately, Baishin doesn't really have enough time to gain more dimensions to his character. I loved that the presence of his spiritual pressure alone was drawing hollows to him like bait, unleashing them onto the world. And while none of these hollows were particularly notable looking, you know me, I still loved seeing them, and it gave a lot of side characters a little chance to show up and help take out some enemies. The movies like to do this too, to give all the popular side characters a chance to show up and have a little moment or two while Ichigo deals with the big bad. I don't mind it. I always think it helps establish, the greater threat. But in the end, Ichigo obviously wins, and the fight itself isn't particularly much of a standout or anything, but it was solid. This whole thing was kind of solid. And this was what a story that is this length should be. Just a fun ride that gives you a small taste of the series. Was Sealed Sword Frenzy groundbreaking? No. Though considering how early it introduced merging with Zanpakuto, kind of, actually. Technically. The name makes a lot of sense now because yes, he was a sealed sword and he had sealed the sword inside of him, and he went on a frenzy. That's kind of what this whole thing was. It was just a bit of a frenzy, a quick little frenzy, and then we're out. For me, it was just an enjoyable 30 minutes of Bleach, and sometimes that's exactly what you want. That's all you need. And without this, we would never have had the glory of Renji with a shotty. I will always appreciate that. It's probably gonna be the first thing I think about when I think about this OVA. Renji shooting off his gun, moving like he is the T-800. Amazing. As for Sealed Sword Frenzy itself, I wouldn't call it amazing, but it's a good time. It was fun. It was a good time. Nothing spectacular, but I didn't need it to be. So that'll do it. This was a surprising video because I didn't know this existed. I never planned on watching this because I didn't know it existed. And, shout out to my patron, Jorgen, who recommended this to me. So are there other hidden Bleach things I should know about? I know there's another OVA that's essentially Memories in the Rain. Plan on hopefully watching that for June 17th as a bit of a celebration of that date and obviously what that date means to that part of the story. So I'm probably going to check that out on Patreon. I'll react to it. I don't know if there's enough there for me to warrant an analysis video because, you know, I talk about Memories in the Rain a lot as far as my history with it. But we'll see. We'll see. If there's anything else that I might overlook besides, you know, I'm watching the filler arcs, I'm reading the light novels, let me know and I'll check it out just like I did for this. But thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to see my reaction to it, it is on Patreon, along with episode reactions, manga read-alongs, other series manga readings. What did you think of this little adventure? So let me know. I'll see you guys later. Thanks as always. Take care. Bye.